questions, and I like to split these up by group. So I'm going to call on people from the seated seats right here first, and I'll take a couple questions on these, and then I'll move on to another one. That means that you guys don't have to raise your hands right now. You can wait until I get to your section to raise your hand. And what we have to give away are Mistborn earbuds. They're made by the people who do the audiobooks. They wanted me to give them away to remind people that I do have audiobooks, if you were wondering. And they're super cool, and I'm going to give them to you. And there's a few left over, so that I don't know how we'll give the rest of them away, but we'll find a way. So, question right here in the green.
Actually, I have an audiobook question for you.
Yes, audiobook question.
I love the reader for the Mistborn series and the Way of Kings. And I was wondering if you pick the reader and how you collaborate with the reader.
Right. So the question, yeah.
The names and that kind of
She really likes the reader for the Mistborn books and the Way of Kings. His name is Michael Kramer. In the Way of Kings, his wife, Kate Redding, reads the female viewpoints. And I did ask for them on purpose because they also do the Wheel of Time books, and I was very fond of their treatment of the Wheel of Time novels. And so when they said, who do you want? I said, can I have Michael or Michael and Kate? And things like that. So the question, how do I work with them? Most of the time I send a pronunciation guide. It doesn't always get there in time for their schedule, which is why sometimes the names are a little off. But I do send in a pronunciation guide, and I do know Michael now. We've done some signings together. He actually does the reading when we do a signing together, and it's really cool. So yeah, so them I get to interface with. Most of the audiobook readers I've never met, and I'll usually pick Michael and Kate for my main line. For Mistborn and Way of Kings, I did that intentionally. I sometimes pick different people for other ones just to have some variety and things like that. Now, I need like a young person. Would you run these around for me, and you can have one as a present for doing that? Yeah? You going to do that? You okay doing that? You guys? Okay, the two of you, come on over. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Mistborn. Okay, it's a Mistborn thing. So if I call on someone, run up and give them one of these, okay? All right, so right here.
What got you reading and then later on writing? And also, how do you get a child to love to read?
Okay, so what got me reading and what made me fall in love with reading initially, and then I'll get to the second question in a minute. So originally, I became a reader because of an 8th grade English teacher who handed me the book Dragon's Bane. Any 8th grade English teachers here? Middle grade English teachers? You guys are awesome. She's actually a professor. I'm still in touch with her. She made a reader out of me by refusing to let me not. I was of age to be reading these books, but I was reading stuff I loved in 2nd grade. And she just lovingly got me reading other things. How do you do that? Well, for me, it worked giving me the right book. I'm working on this with my 7-year-old right now, who I want to be reading Harry Potter with, but he wants to be reading Fly Guy, which is about a boy with a pet fly. And so we read what he likes. And I figure if I can get excited about what he loves and read it with him, that will work, rather than trying to get him to love what I love. Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. Don't ask me. Ask literature people, because I had to have it done to me. So I'm not even sure what happened, but it was like I read that Dragon's Bane, and I came back to my teacher. And I can't believe people write books like that. She's like, "There's a whole genre." What's your question?
So in a lot of your books, there are like things that make it seem like they're kind of connected. Or
Okay, in a lot of my books, there are things that make them seem like they might be connected.
So like,
A little bit, yeah. What's that?
is there going to be like a crossover?
Is there going to be a crossover? So for those who don't know, my books, my epic fantasies are all connected. There's a hidden epic happening behind the scenes. There will be someday that I will do crossovers, but I am not doing it right now. The focus right now, I don't want people to read the books and be like, I am so lost. I don't want you to feel like you have to read my whole body of work to appreciate what's going on in one of them. So while there will be cameos, and sometimes they'll be moderately relevant to the plot, it's only going to remain mostly cameos for the moment until I do a series which is up front going to be, here's the big crossover. You have to know all 8 magic systems or you're going to go crazy. So, there you are. All right here.
So, it sounds like you draw a lot of inspiration from pretty obscure myths and just not really common places. So, how do you go about finding materials on those notes, on those weird
Okay, so I draw from a lot of distinct and different things for mythologies and things like that. And the question is, how do I do that? Where do I find material on those? I like primary sources. So I like to find people who, from the culture that they come from who believe in that specific religion or who have studied it, and I like to interview them or hang out on their forums and read how they're talking and things like that. And that has been a lot more useful to me, though I will often, this is where I use audiobooks, I will often go grab books on the subjects and listen to the audiobooks of them while I'm signing big stacks of pages or things like that. But yeah, primary sources are wonderful. If you can find those and talk to people, that's the thing that's going to help the most. All right, I have to go to this group. I'm sorry, guys. You can ask your questions when you come up to see me. Okay. Oh, did I already sign your book? Oh, I'll do your. Oh, yeah, you go ahead.
Was there an author that inspired you to write?
Was there an author that inspired me to write? Barbara Handley wrote the book Dragon's Bane. It would be her or Anne McCaffrey, who's the next person I read. All right, right here.
What's your favorite Dresden Files book?
What's my favorite Dresden Files book? That's I am going to say I prefer Codex Alera. I've read Dresden. I don't know. They're all very good. So there you are. Yeah, I'm reading the Aeronauts Windlass right now, and I'm liking that a lot. But I really like Codex Alera. So, all right, let's go in the back right here.
Okay, so is the title Shadows itself a reflection on the character development of Wax, or the other things like Conjure?
Is the title Shadows itself reflecting the character development of Wax or related to other things such as the Conjure? The answer is yes. If you look through the previous Mistborn books, I actually used the phrase Shadows itself at some point, which is where the title came from. But the answer is, this one is meant to mean a lot of different things. All right, other questions right here.
Yeah, with the original Mistborn trilogy, one thing that I really liked was you kind of drop us into a world that's different, but then by the end of it, you wrap it all together and show where it came from, lots of different exposition. Did you have the plan for the whole trilogy?
Oh, good question. So Mistborn is complementing the way that it all kind of comes together at the end. And you guys can refill out of that box when you're out. And make sure you tuck away one for yourselves. So the question is, did I have it all planned out? And for Mistborn, I did. I had a big advantage. Usually, and this is what I usually do for a series, I'll come up with a plan that really details the first book and has just a little bit about the next books. Then I'll write the first book. Then I'll create a really intricate outline for the next two. Then use that to revise the first book to match the next two. So the first one I can explore a little bit further and go a little farther afield from where the outline was without impacting things too much. And then I can lock it in and write the other two. And so there are plenty of things that I didn't have locked down when I wrote the first one, but then I did the second two outlines, revised the first one, and then wrote the second two books. All right, let's do one more. Okay, in the glasses.
About 3 years ago, you were here and you said that you wanted to write a book with Pat Williams himself and then still just a pipe dream.
Yeah, it's still a pipe dream. So the question is, so I had this goofy idea one time. And I thought, what if I got another famous fantasy writer? And together the two of us wrote what's that? Oh, I'm telling you. Don't worry, this is what I'm telling you. I had this goofy idea where I would get another famous fantasy writer, and we would write a book together. But it wouldn't be a Brandon Sanderson it would be a Brandon Sanderson versus. Where we each created a set of characters who have contrasting goals, were against each other, and who would try to achieve this, or they're on opposite sides, and they would seduce each other's characters or murder each other's characters and things like this. And we would write it almost to the climax, and then we would go to George Martin, and we'd say, you've got to adjudicate how we have to write the ending. And so the cover would be like Brandon Sanderson versus Pat Rothfuss with guest judge George R. Martin. And it's really just a pipe dream. And his question was, am I ever going to do that? And it's really just a pipe dream. Maybe I'll make it happen. The trick is I would have to find, like I can't do Pat because his fans would kill me for slowing him down. Right, so it'd have to be somebody like Brent or somebody who's a little faster. But I can totally see a Brandon Sanderson versus Brent Weeks, right? You guys don't all have to root for him because he lives here. But yeah, something like that. It's mostly a pipe dream. We'll see if I can make it happen. All right, I'm going to now do standing up. Over here, I'm not doing the back yet, so I'll get to you guys next. So standing up along there. So yes, right here.
Have you been approached by anybody about making a movie?
Okay, making a movie. Okay. So Hollywood is this. They do this thing where they option books, right? And this is most of the deals you see they get signed are what we call an option. They come in, they say, we think we might be able to get a movie made, but we don't know for sure, so we're going to rent the rights from you. It's like leasing, renting to own, where we pay you a certain amount every year that's against a big payout, and if we ever decide to make the big payout, we buy the rights outright. But until then, we can rent them for like 5 years and pay you every year or 18 months. These are very common in Hollywood. They happen a lot. And it's now that I've become involved in this, it's kind of interesting to me that like when something gets optioned, it's like huge news. Oh, it's gonna get made. But 1 in 30 of these get made by general, and most of the deals you're hearing about are those. That's why you'll probably hear about this deal. You'll be like, oh, someone's gonna make this film, and then 5 years later, you're like, whatever happened to that? Well, it was just an option deal. And I've had like 10 things get optioned. Like I've sold things over and over again, stuff like that. And so, yes, people have my works option. Nothing I have done has ever gone past screenplay except for Alcatraz at DreamWorks Animation, which went to storyboard before then they decided to kill it. So, yeah, obviously you didn't get that movie. That was years ago. They made The Cruise instead. No, really, those were the 2 competing projects. And so. Nothing has gone past screenplay. I have gotten to screenplay a couple times before, but the step after that is like to get a director attached, and then then get a green light or get actors attached. The green light is the hard thing. And the only thing I know of that got green light lit recently is The Sword of Shanra, which is coming out in January, I think. Everything else I know of is just an option, and so yeah. But Steel Hearts at Sean Levy's company, who did the Night in the Museum films. Emperor's Soul is at DMG, who are producers on 2 of the Iron Man films. The rest of the Cosmere is optioned by somebody else, but they haven't announced it yet, so I can't talk about it. They're very specific about stuff like that. Legion's been optioned twice, and both people have not been able to get that made as a television show. I mean, everything's been optioned, so there you are. All right. Ooh, there's a hand way in the back. Yes, you're waving your hand. Go for it.
In Stormlight 3, will there be any further insight into what happened to Dalinar's wife?
Will there be further insight about what happened to Dalinar's wife in Stormlight 3? Yes. Yes. All right. Let's do this side in the purple.
Do you have any plans or would like to have any of your novels made as graphic novels?
Would I like to have any of my novels made into graphic novels? We're actually doing one right now. I've kept away from doing this for a while because I didn't want to just give people the same story. So I'm thinking, oh, I'll write a side story for something. But then that requires so much time for me that if I were going to do that, I just released it as a novel. So we got this kind of weird place where I wasn't sure what to do. But then my agent pitched taking one of my books that was unpublished during my days I was trying to break in, that was pretty good and had a good magic system but needed a lot of editing, and said, why don't we do that? Because we can edit it during the same time that we're preparing the graphic novel and then do a graphic novel version. And that turned out really well. We got another writer to help me and do the writing, someone who knew comic books, and the script turned out fantastic, so we sent it in and it's being turned in. They've done 5 out of 6 issues, and it'll be 18 issues, but they'll release them in 6-issue clumps. They'll actually only be graphic novels, there won't be, and there'll be 3 of those. So the first of those should come out next year, the first 6. It's called White Sand. If you want to read the book, I do send that book out to people who just write to me, because I don't think the book as it stands is good enough to charge you for. So be aware that, but it was written about the same time as Elantris, and it's just a little bit worse than Elantris. So all right, let's do one more question here. Yeah, in the hat.
Have been like
What would Zane be like if he hadn't been tainted? He would have been a lot more like Kelsey. All right, in the back, in the blue, go ahead.
Alright, so one thing that impressed me the most about the Mistborn trilogy is how well you wrote a dynamic and compelling female character. In my writing, I can't write a compelling male character.
Right.
What did you do to get into the head of the opposite gender?
What did I do to get in the head of the opposite gender? This is an excellent question. She's saying that she feels Ben turned out very well, and it's been hard for her to write male characters. This was actually really hard for me at the first two. Several of my unpublished novels had really lame, weak female characters. And it was one of the big transitions I had to make in transitioning from aspiring to professional. And the biggest change was just a mindset change for me. I found that, and this might not be your problem, but I found that I was sticking people into roles rather than creating a character who had a life outside the story and then seeing what happened when the story happened to them. I'm not going to call on any more over here, I'm sorry. And so it was this transformation in my head where I'm like, wait, everyone's the hero in their own story. What is this person doing what would they be doing otherwise? What are they passionate about? How are they weird? How are they quirky? And this is the problem with a lot of people who are kind of aware of this issue, who write the other gender. They don't make like the other gender weird and quirky. And you'll see this, like female writers, the men will kind of be this paragon, and male writers, the woman will be up on this pedestal. And they don't feel real because of that. Try to say if they were starring in the story, how would I design them? What makes them weird? What makes them interesting? What makes them passionate? Why don't they fit their role? That's the best thing you can ask yourself, is why don't they fit their role? All right? We're going to do one more question. Your hand went first. Go ahead. Yep. No, sorry, right there. Yeah.
Okay, out of all the magic systems you've created, which one's your favorite?
Out of all the magic systems I've created, which is my favorite? Mistborn. Yeah, I'd say Mistborn. It's hard to pick. I think the world of Stormlight's my favorite, but the magic of Mistborn's my favorite. We have to move on. We have to keep this moving along. I could stay here and answer questions all day, but I want to get to the reading. So I'm going to do a few quick announcements before we do